Welcome back to Takacs McGinnis Elder Care Law Hour. I'm Barbara McGinnis. In today's episode, we're talking about advanced directives. What are they? Who needs it? And what do you do with it after you have one? How do you make sure the right people have a copy?
And I'm Tim Takacs, and in this segment we are talking with Jackson Boyd, who is a lieutenant and paramedic with the Sumner County Emergency Management System, EMS, right?
Yes.
Thank you for being with us, Lieutenant Boyd.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, when EMS, and I know a lot of people think about this, okay, well, I've got a healthcare power of attorney, I have an advanced directive,
yeah.
but I'm in an automobile accident and EMS arrives, and of course it's not out there.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What do your folks do?
Yeah, first thing we want to make sure of is scene safety. Once the scene is safe, then we can obviously move in and take care of the situation. But mainly, with being in a car accident, those sometimes people don't have those advanced directives or the DNR with them. So we kind of go over basically just taking care of that patient, making sure that we provide that excellent care for them. So.
Gotcha.
All right, so speaking of DNRs, if someone is a DNR, what's the best way to make sure that EMS staff would be aware of that? And there is another form that, in addition to an advanced directive or a healthcare power of attorney, a post form, right? Is that something that you guys look for?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the post form?
The post form would be more the DNR form, that was what we call it.
Okay.
It's a Tennessee state form that you can print off and obviously speak with your physician about that. But the DNR form basically states, do not resuscitate or to resuscitate. It's all on their wishes or the power of attorney's wishes, but there's different options on there. You can go from limited interventions, limited added interventions, or comfort measures only. So with the limited, added interventions, you can have antibiotics, IV fluids, things like that, and it really gives a really good explanation on that form in order for you to be able to, for us, as EMS providers, to kind of move forward with that. Advanced directives are just that. So we try to, obviously honor that as best we can.
Right, and now we're really not talking about an automobile accident where the individual is non-responsive, and we all know or probably agree that you're going to do whatever you need to do because you don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. But the first thing we want to make sure is that we take care of them, for sure.
But let's say you are, let's say you have a DNR or you have a post form. Where should the patient keep that form?
Probably the best place you can find it. Many times we show up, we've been told,
like somebody's house, right?
Yeah, if we're in someone's house, we've been told, we have a DNR form, I've got to see it. The first thing is we have to see that form. So the best place to keep it is either one behind the bedpost, or on the refrigerator, or in a stack of papers where you eventually can find it. But we want to make sure that you have that form and it's easily accessible. So knowing where it's at is half the battle, pretty much.
Because we have a lot of clients that ask, well, I'm supposed to keep all these important papers in the safe deposit box at the bank, right? And that's a terrible place to keep an advanced directive.
Yeah, definitely. Bank receipts and things like that, keep them in the box. But your DNR form for EMS, we definitely need to have that. So.
Anything else that we could do to make your job easier, first responders' job easier?
I think everyone should know how to do CPR. I think that the lay people that are out there that call 911, knowing how to do CPR, is absolutely vital to move forward. But definitely, if we're talking about DNRs, just making sure that you have that form and making sure that you have that conversation with that family member and that loved one, picking out who that power of attorney is. Deep thought, like you said earlier, and definitely lots of prayers to make sure that you get to that point and that you pick that right person. But having that conversation with your family member and having everything written out, because the last thing you want to do, when it comes down to it, to the very end, you don't want to be that person making that decision for that person. You would much rather have them make that decision on their own. So
it could be somebody with chronic illness and not necessarily an emergency, but you still get involved. That's some people that probably are thinking about keeping their documents on the front of the refrigerator, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, just making sure that they have that document. Each situation is different. You know, with those that are, you know, terminally ill, whether they be on hospice, you know, hospice can kind of give us that direction and how we need to kind of move forward with that.
Yeah. You know, I've heard, and I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but just recently, is that you have a family member that calls because someone's going through respiratory failure or whatever it is, and they have a DNR.
Right.
In other words, the patient has a DNR, and a family member calls, and then EMS shows up.
Yeah.
You know, now, what happens then? Because it sounds like to me is that, okay, there's a DNR, you called us, so you...
Yeah, what do you want me to do?
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
So what happens then?
So, like I said earlier, the DNR form, it has different options for it. You can be listed as a DNR and not have CPR done, but those limited added interventions, we can kind of base our treatment modalities off of that. You can have whether it be a CPAP or a BiPAP or medications such as like an albuterol treatment or things of that nature. We can administer that, excuse me, but not necessarily the endotracheal intubation.
Gotcha.
Which
because that would be not.
Yeah, that would be absolutely advanced.
Gotcha.
At that point, and that would probably be one of those things that it's very hard to come off of once you're on it.
So if the person calls, let's say the loved one calls and says my husband's going through this, even though they have a DNR, and then EMS shows up, can the person, the loved one, then say maybe I changed my mind?
You mean as far as they do want the CPR,
or they don't want the CPR and
it?
They realize they called you by mistake?
Yeah, if the DNR form is there, we base off
go by that.
Yeah, we're going to kind of go by that.
Gotcha.
But again, each situation is different. So with that, if they're terminally ill and we see things like that, there's one thing that we can do. We can, for lack of better words, phone a friend. We call it calling our medical direction, whether that be a phone call or a radio report to that local ER physician. I kind of give them the situation and the whole ordeal that we've got going on, and then
that's a good idea.
Talk with the medical physician there at the ER and say, hey, what would you like for us to do? How can we move forward with this? And they kind of give us that direction at that point. But the biggest thing is for us is to paint that picture of what we're looking at, because they're not there. We are, and they're not. Right. So we try to honor that as best we can, though.
Well, because there is an old saying that the bull looks different when you're in the ring, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and if the person is still able to speak for themselves, they do have the right to change their mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they can change their mind whenever they want to. They have that right. So
it doesn't matter if the form's there or not, but they're having difficulty breathing.
Yeah.
And they can talk to you and say, I've changed my mind. I want you to treat me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't
do what you got to do.
Yeah.
At that point. So
I think that's an important thing about advanced directives
Exactly.
and documents, that people know they can be revoked, they can be changed.
Right.
Once you put it in writing, it doesn't mean it's in stone forever.
Right.
That you can change your mind.
What are medical IDs? Does Tennessee honor them for DNRs?
So medical IDs are just that. They're just an identification. So as far as like DNRs, we really don't accept a medical ID being a DNR.
Is that like a bracelet or something?
Yeah, it would be like a bracelet.
Instead of having
watch.
A tattoo or something on the back of your neck?
Correct, yeah. Because we can't see that on the back of the neck.
Yeah.
But definitely the medical IDs are, just kind of advise us of any allergies that they may have. Diabetes is one of the big ones that some people put on there. And just any other type of, really extensive medical history that they have. Gotcha. And some of them even have, their information on it, which is great.
More information is better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. during an emergency situation, our main focus is trying to take care of them.
Right.
So
we're going to put your contact information up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any parting words? Got about 10 seconds.
Hey, just everyone needs to learn CPR, and talk with your loved one, and see what they would like first and foremost.
Great.
So.
Okay. I know everybody's going to want to know this. Have you ever seen DNR tattooed on anybody?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay.
We joke about it, but we have not ever seen it.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to be back after this break, and when we come back, we will have an emergency room physician, and we'll talk about what happens then and communicating advanced directives. Stay tuned.